The United States has been taking great strides to upgrade its financial system to include digital assets, tokenization, and stablecoins. I wanted to take a look at the connections between the United States and, of course, Ripple and XRP. Can we foresee where this is all going? There's some information coming to light here from Paul Atkins telling us what he sees the future as. You have to hear this clip. We also are going to take a look at some other things like, can Ripple donate the escrowed XRP to the United States to pay off US debt? I wanted to take a look at this to better understand if it's even possible or what would need to happen to do that. So we're also going to look at that information after we take a look at this. So this image is from years ago. I'll show you who's all in this image. You got Brad Garlinghouse right here. And then this is the, frequent White House summit where they are talking about cryptocurrency. You have the CEO of Coinbase. You have Michael Saylor here. Brad Garlinghouse is right here on the left and a bunch of other people in between. Scott Bessent, the Treasurer of the United States, is right there. And looking at who's in this picture below, right, you have people from the Monetary Authority of Singapore. You have people from the International Monetary Fund. This is Christine Lagarde here. She is now the head of the European Central Bank. They're making a decision on whether to go forward with a CBDC for the digital euro, which I do believe they will. You have Ross Leckow from the IMF here, Brad Garlinghouse here. You have people from the Bank of Indonesia. And it's just interesting to see the rooms that Ripple has been a part of all of these years along the way. And you also are taking a look here at what the US is trying to do. They want to take American innovation and they want the rest of the world to use that American innovation, and they're talking about digital assets. Check this out.
So a couple of weeks ago, the administration issued the President's Working Group's report on digital assets in the United States, and there were clear directions to the SEC. We're part of the PWG, that President's Working Group, and clear recommendations for us to go forward and help make what the President has announced, his intention to make America the crypto capital of the world.
To make America the crypto capital of the world, right? That's something we've heard a bunch, but this next part is what I want you to focus on. Listen closely.
To make America the crypto capital of the world and have the world run on American technology.
Okay, so in the same sentence that they're talking about making America the crypto capital of the world, they're talking about having the world use American technology. And we were talking about digital assets in that same breath. So you start to wonder, well, what American cryptocurrencies are they talking about here? Because when you take a look at the top tokens, Bitcoin, is that American innovation? Is anybody using Bitcoin for international payments or anything? Stablecoins? Right? Tokenization? No. Ethereum, it's based in Switzerland. It's not an American company. It's not American innovation. And then you have XRP, which is all of the above. And so you start to wonder, is there things that we could take a look at right now showing the US government, Ripple, and XRP? Let's go ahead and take a look at this information. The US government and Ripple direct and indirect engagement. Federal and regulatory relationships. Ripple has actively engaged with multiple major US federal agencies over the years. This includes the Federal Reserve, the SEC, the US Treasury, and Office of Comptroller of Currency. In 2014, the US Government Accountability Office classified XRP as a virtual currency. In 2015, Ripple reached a compliance agreement with FinCEN, which is the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, a bureau of the Treasury setting industry standards for digital asset compliance. Fed integration and banking access. Ripple is strategically expanding its access to the US financial system through a partnership with Finastra. Ripple gained indirect access to the Federal Reserve master accounts and leveraging compatibility with FedNow service and the US government's real-time payment infrastructure. Ripple also applied for a US national bank charter and is seeking their own Federal Reserve master account. If granted, Ripple would be able to hold its reserves for its stablecoins directly with the Fed. There's some also policy proposals and integration of XRP. Notable, a proposal was submitted to the SEC's working task force suggesting XRP be designated as a strategic financial asset. So this was sent in by a regular person. This is not something that the government actually built, but I've seen this document. It is a real document, but it's just not what a lot of people thought it was. Recommendations includes presidential executive orders, regulatory clarity, and mandates for banks to adopt XRP for liquidity. Through these ambitions, proposals have not yet enacted by law. National Crypto Reserve and executive discussions. Former President Trump publicly announced intentions to create a U.S. crypto reserve, mentioning XRP, Solana, and ADA. He went on to walk back these comments about U.S. supporting American innovation. There is no plan. There is no money to buy American assets. They just came out yesterday, Scott Bessent, to say that they don't have any plans to buy Bitcoin, which, made me happy, but it also made me sad, right? I thought that they were going to find a way to be able to do this. And of course, right, they're not going to just come out and buy XRP first. They're of course going to try to buy Bitcoin and maybe then support American crypto innovation. But it was just kind of sad because I felt like a lot of us were, expecting something to happen, and it hasn't yet. Now, not saying that it won't in the future, but right now there's no action or plan to buy any cryptocurrency with any money, right? Because this was all done by executive order. When Trump just issues an executive order, there's no taxpayer money behind it. If they wanted to be able to spend taxpayer money, they would need to get Congress and the Senate involved here in the United States. And if they push through some type of US crypto reserve with maybe like 1% or 3% or something like that would go into supporting American innovation. Now that could be legendary. That could be something like we could help set policy for other countries. Like if the United States does this, it would put pressure on other countries to follow suit. And I think we're missing out on a big opportunity here to show the rest of the world how serious we are. It's one thing to say that we're serious and pass regulation. Great. Like this was kind of expected. This is what we need, but what else are you going to do above this? And I think that's what I'm waiting for. It says Ripple executives have participated in official US government roundtables and continuous policy engagement, yada, yada, yada. Ripple's role in the US financial modernization, FedNow and ISO 20022. Ripple's product suite for ISO 20022 compliant, meaning it can interoperate seamlessly with FedNow and the Federal Reserve's real-time payment system. Remember, FedWire does process about $4.3 trillion a day. If you started to use, XRP or stablecoin, RLUSD for those payments, I mean, think of how much money the government could actually save. And then you could take that money and invest it into crypto, right? Because that wouldn't be new money created. That would just be money that you are saving. That would be a really unique idea to start buying crypto. Of course, we know about the bank charter application. I don't need to read that, but there's also been, legal developments. Ripple's longstanding battle with the SEC is finally over. So, nothing too crazy yet. I have seen some people, speculate that the IRS or refunds might be issued in, XRP or something like that, but I haven't seen any definitive proof yet on that. It is a plausible way to pay off national debt. Ripple donates the escrow to the US government. XRP and RippleNet become the premier settlement layer and infra for global CBDC and stablecoin flows. At $800 per XRP, the US government escrow is worth $36 trillion. So is Ripple, could they even do this, right? Like people just expect, they could give away $140 billion today and $36 trillion maybe in the future. Sure, why not, right? Is this even possible? Technically, the idea of Ripple donating its XRP escrow to the US government probably isn't possible in practice. And there are extreme policies and economic and technical roadblocks here. The US government's debt is $36 trillion and is comprised mostly of US treasuries held by institutions, countries, and the public, payable in US dollars. XRP is a cryptocurrency, not legal tender or an official reserve asset in the United States. This is what regulation could change. For the US government to pay off debt using XRP, creditors would have to accept XRP as a payment, which global financial markets and US laws do not currently recognize. Converting XRP to US dollar on a massive scale would require an enormous market liquidity, probably far beyond the real world trading volume of XRP, even with a hypothetical price spike. And then it says, how would such a system work? Ripple donates escrowed XRP to the US government. Ripple's escrow is it's on the lower side now, it's about $39 billion. This would require legal approval, significant policy change, and likely new legislation. Global settlement system, RippleNet and XRP become the world's premier settlement solution for CBDCs and stablecoins, replacing SWIFT and other infrastructures. US debt holders, domestic and foreign, would have to agree to accept XRP in payment or the equivalent in tokenized assets. Like this is something that I definitely could see happening, because remember, you can exchange anything of value for anything else of value on the XRP ledger, and we're getting all of these different tokenized assets. This is just now starting. We just passed $1 billion in tokenized assets on the XRP ledger. We were just at like 200 million a few days ago. Now it's 1 billion. You're starting to see a huge influx now that we have the EVM sidechain up. This is going to be very, very big for Ripple and XRP, and of course all of us, the XRP army. Price appreciation, XRP's price rises to $800 due to massive new support and utility, and then debt repayment mechanism, the US converts XRP into USD to pay its creditors. So is it possible? There would have to be, legal considerations, legal tender discussions, liquidity, international acceptance, Ripple's role, CBDC and stablecoin infrastructure. There's just a lot of things that would need to happen in order to get there. But I did find this video, which is really interesting because it was perfect for this. Can this be donated to the US government, or is there going to be a bunch of issues? Like, let's say Ripple woke up today and it was like, you know what, we don't need this $140 billion. Let's just, here it is, right? Even though it's locked up in escrow, they would have to time lock it, right, for the next 40 months or 42 months, whatever it is, and just give everything away, which we don't even know if some of that's already promised. But check this out.
I tell them what a gratis vendor is.
Yeah.
Because I was not going to go into the government. I was doing transition.
What is a gratis vendor?
A gratis vendor is an approved vendor for the United States of America that gives product to the government, doesn't sell it.
Okay.
So therefore, I don't have to go through the whole process of becoming a proper vendor because you're giving it to us. And then if you give it to Article 2, which is the president's stuff, then the president can accept it, right? Because it's give.
Sorry, what's an example of this? Like, just to make
I write some software.
You write some software.
I write some software for the Commerce Department to do a better job, XYZ. You just give it to me. And then I do QA on it, and I can take it. If you sell it to me for $1, we go into government hell.
Right, the whole rigmarole.
Yeah. Right, but if you give it to me, right, and then I set up, so I said, I'm calling it Doge.
All right, hold on, what is it called?
I tell them what a gratis vendor is.
Gratis vendor. All right, and I also want to take a look at this hot rumor alert. It's super hot. U.S. government eyeing Ripple's escrow for national reserve purposes. Like, is this even possible? Of course, we run into the same issues, right? Legal barriers, no existing legal mechanism. Ripple's lawyers and independent legal experts have clarified that the U.S. government does not have a straightforward legal path to seize XRP held in Ripple escrow accounts, barring a criminal conviction or invoking extraordinary national security powers. Ripple's court battles have been so far remained civil in nature. So if the government woke up tomorrow, there's lawyers that believe that they couldn't even take Ripple's escrow away from them. Government asset seizure requires due process. For the U.S. government to seize assets, it would need a legal basis to do so. We've seen some crazy stuff happening recently, so I don't want to put anything past what our government can and can't do. Technical realities of the XRP escrow. The XRP protocol managed escrow. The XRP escrow system is governed by the XRP ledger protocol, not Ripple's discretionary control. Monthly releases from escrow are pre-programmed, and this can't be changed arbitrarily. Leftover XRP is re-escrowed automatically. Multi-signature account security. Ripple's escrowed XRP is secured by a multi-signature account. While technically possible for Ripple to transfer control by changing the regular key, such an action would require Ripple's cooperation and explicit authorization. All or nothing execution. Ripple's rerouting of escrowed funds to another entity in the US or government otherwise would require Ripple's voluntary action. Automated for external seizure isn't supported by XRP's escrow mechanism. So, obviously, I don't believe this is ever going to happen, but there's definitely people that are thinking it's a possibility. And you start to wonder, the US just put out a 166-page report on digital assets and innovation across borders, or cross-border settlement, stablecoins, tokenization of financial assets. We are really starting to see institutions come in and starting to tokenize these assets. We have the DTCC and the Wings ready to tokenize, trillions of dollars worth of assets and bring those assets on chains and use crypto assets like XRP for settlement. This is really the starting gun for all of this innovation. You have Ripple working in places like Dubai to help tokenize land and real estate. That's also going to play a vital role in all of this. Ripple has done a lot of sandbox testing with central banks as well as financial institutions all over the world, as well as they are connected to financial market infrastructures all over the world, stuff like SEPA, Single Euro Payments Area. You have connections into SWIFT. You have connections into FedNow through like Finastra or CGI. There's just so many connections here. You really start to think where Ripple could be in a year from now, 3 years from now, or 5 years from now. This is why I'm insanely bullish on XRP. If you could have bought Ethereum at $100, that was obviously a good play. Buying Ethereum now, maybe Ethereum goes to $10,000 or $15,000 a cycle if it's really insane. There's some people that believe Ethereum could go to maybe 20,000 or 25,000, but it's still only a 5 or 6x return. How long would you have to wait for that? Buying XRP at $3, you don't think XRP can reach $15 or $20, especially with the new ETF demand, right? I just think there's more opportunity for people, especially new people getting into the crypto space, to buy XRP over Ethereum and Bitcoin. If you haven't bought it already, XRP might be the solution. All right, I hope this solves some questions in our minds of like, what is possible? What has Ripple done with the government so far? Can Ripple even gift the escrow to the national government? I just wanted to answer some of these questions. Sometimes you like lay in bed and you start to think about this stuff like, did I go down this rabbit hole? Did I research this? And then I wake up and I'm like, and here's that research. I hope you enjoyed it. Bye. Nothing in this video should be taken as financial advice. This is for entertainment purposes only. I am not a financial advisor. Please seek financial advice if you need it. Let's get back to the video.